Oh, good day, good day. Whew. Today, we're talking about my favorite Kansas City sports team. I gotta adjust my camera. Sorry, I wasn't ready. Yeah, so we're talking about my favorite Kansas City sport team today. The Kansas City Chiefs. Don't ignore my bad, right? I didn't make it today. I just got out the shower, too. So, fit check. Blue shirt, black shorts, slippers per use. You guys have seen that 100 times, so no point to show you. Yeah, so let's just get into it. Per usual, we're going to start the offense. Mind blown. So, obviously, at your quarterback, you have the best quarterback in the league for my money. Hold on, let me just... Sorry, I just got out the shower. So, yeah, you're the best quarterback in the league for my money with Patrick LaVon Mahomes. And, yeah, I mean, he's, in my opinion, like I said, he's the best quarterback. Now... Obviously, he's been in a few down years in a row now. But honestly, if you go look at the film from last year, he played a lot better than his numbers show. He really did carry that entire Chiefs team for when he played. And obviously, he didn't play every game. He only played 14. And again, if you look at it, his stats look pretty bad. But he was actually good in those games. And I know you're going to be like, well, no, he wasn't. I mean, he was. Not statistically. You can't go look at the stats for him. The stats, you're going to look at him. I think it's 22 touchdowns to 11 interceptions with like 3,400 yards, which, yeah, is not great. But if you go look at the film, especially like the first few weeks of the season, he 100% was carrying his team. And then a lot of the losses you can't really place on him. Like I think back to the Eagles game where Travis Kelce literally dropped Mahomes' touchdown pass into Drew Makuba's arms, allowing the Eagles didn't win off of that, but that basically sealed the game for the Eagles. They went up 10 after that and never looked back. Now, if Mahomes does not start, which he is trending on starting, he was obviously just cleared to practice. So yeah, I mean, sorry, but if he does not end up starting week 1, then you have Justin Fields as your backup quarterback. Now, I'll say this about Justin Fields. He protects the ball, which is good, but he is definitely afraid to take shots downfield. And obviously, he's just not the best passer overall. But I think with Andy Reid this year, if he does end up starting week 1, I mean, it would be against the Broncos, so that wouldn't be great. But I do think Andy Reid can get the most out of his legs. And I guess maybe we'll see the best Justin Fields passing performance we ever do with Andy Reid. But yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about this QB room. So we're just going to move on. And looking at the running back room, you got Kenneth Walker at your 1. Obviously, K9 Super Bowl MVP. By far the best running back Mahomes has had on his team. And, like, if you look at it, Kenneth Walker last year, yeah, again, his stats aren't that impressive, but you have to actually look at the film to see how good of a player he was. And I don't think he's really going to be splitting reps this year, which is what he done all throughout his time in Seattle. And that kind of does worry me in terms of the injury. I'm hoping he can stay healthy, but honestly, I kind of hope he does split reps because he has Emmett Johnson behind him, and I'm a big Emmett Johnson guy. I know he's a 5th-round pick out of Nebraska, but I'm huge on him. I really hope he gets to play this year because I enjoyed watching his film when I was making this video. I haven't shaved. Sorry, that's what I keep. I know I'm all types of distracted today. Now, looking at the receiving core, this wide receiving core isn't actually that bad. And I'll tell you why I don't think it's bad. Now, Rashee Rice, who is one of the most overrated wide receivers in the league, Xavier Worthy, who has some of the highest potential in the league, and Tyquan Thornton, who is a great deep threat. Now, I'm going to start bottom to top. So, wide receiver 3, Tyquan Thornton, who last year kind of broke out with the Chiefs. He had his best year by far. He was one of the best deep threats in the league, statistically. And for a while, for the first few weeks while Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy were out, he was the wide receiver 1, and he kind of proved that he was good enough to be said wide receiver 1. And, listen, I'm kind of high on Tyquan Thornton. I think he can be a great deep threat, and I think he's a really good 3. Now, speaking on Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, I think they will finally be unlocked this year. You know, they were both, one was a 2nd-round pick, one was a 4th, 2nd, and 1st. Respectively, and I think Eric Bieniemy can unlock them, assuming that Eric Bieniemy stays with the team after his wife was shot, which apparently she is in stable condition, so God bless. But yeah, I mean, I think Eric Bieniemy can definitely unlock those two and give Patrick Mahomes a good receiving core for what he hasn't had since the Tyreek trade. Now, I also want to talk about Jalen Royals, who I do think is actually a very promising wide receiver. And he was going into his second year. In his first year, he had 4 yards on 2 catches. But coming out of the 4th round last year's draft, I'm pretty high on him. I think, again, he's a player that could be really good in the league. I hope that I'm proven right about that. Now you get your tight end room. And I know this is a bit controversial among Chiefs fans and non-Chiefs fans. I've talked to 2 Chiefs fans while making this video. We'll get into that a little later, though. Now, Travis Kelce, obviously he's still a very serviceable tight end. Is he what he was in his prime? Absolutely not. He led the team in receiving yards and I believe was 2nd or 3rd in tight end yardage. I think 3rd behind Kyle Pitts. But he is still serviceable, and he's still Mahomes' favorite target. That was very apparent from last year. Where, let me just pull up the stats real fast. Again, I know stats don't mean anything, but if you look at the film, he was. Now, stat-wise, he was actually pretty impressive. 76 catches for 85 yards with 86 first downs, which is actually pretty impressive for the. Oh, and 5 touchdowns was pretty impressive for this point in his career. But I will say he definitely has a drop problem. He definitely dropped a lot of picks a lot of balls into interceptions. Some would be touchdowns to even give the Chiefs a lead. I think back to the Eagles game. I think to the Texans game, which obviously the Chiefs weren't going to win that Texans game anyways, but still. So he's definitely washed, but I'm glad that he got to stay with Kansas City for his final year, and he got married. Congratulations. But then behind him, you got Noah Gray. Now, Noah Gray he's coming off arguably the worst film year of his career, which sucks. Because I'm pretty big on Noah Gray, and one of the people I talked to, one of the Chiefs fans, I know he used to be pretty big on Noah Gray when Noah Gray was actually involved with the offense. Now, Noah Gray definitely was not involved as much as he should have been last year, and when he was involved, he was not good. But I'm still high on Noah Gray, and it sucks that he'll never really get to be that tight end 1, because now I believe he's 27, and after this year he'll be 28. So he never really got that chance. And that's another thing about Travis Kelce. That's a guy you can depend on being on the field 15-plus games a year. So, yeah. But then looking at this line, now this is a line that is it's interesting to say the least. Now, let's get it out of the way. Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, obviously those are 2 of the best players at their said positions. Trey Smith, a great right guard. Creed Humphrey, a great center. But obviously, you need good tackles to go along with the good interior. Now, looking at Josh Simmons, I thought he was pretty impressive in his rookie year, and I think he's just going to take a step forward this year. There was a few games last year where, okay, yeah, that's a rookie mistake, but yeah, obviously every rookie is going to have that. He's not going to have a Joe Alt rookie year. I mean, that would be sweet, but he's not. But yeah, he was still very good last year, and he was kind of overlooked. Okay, he wasn't very good, but he was good. He was good for a rookie, and I think he kind of gets overlooked because he was he was the last tackle drafted in the first round, 32nd pick, actually. And then you look at Kingsley Suamatia, I think is how you say his name. And listen, I'll be hopeful for him. Again, I know in the Chiefs community, this guy isn't really cared about too much. But I'll say this. He's only going into his 3rd season. He's only 23. Wow. I know that's crazy. I mean, I think this guy has all the promise in the world. He's a 2nd-round pick. I think he really could develop. And again, I think Eric Bieniemy and Kenneth Walker are really going to help out that. And you're like, how's Kenneth Walker going to help out that? Because, now they're not going to be passing as much. And he's actually going to have a running back behind him that is good. We'll just say good. So, yeah, I mean, I think I actually really like this line. And then getting to the right tackle, Jalen Moore. That's definitely the weakest part of this line, but I'll say this. If you're going to have a weak part on your line, you definitely want it to be the side your quarterback can see instead of the blind side. So we'll say that. Patrick Mahomes obviously right-handed, so he'll see the right tackle. That's good. I mean, yeah. So yeah, now we're going to go into the defense, and for their defense, the Steve Spagnuolo defense, they want to run a 4-3. And listen, I have all the faith in the world for Steve Spagnuolo. But this defense does look a little rough on paper. Now, we're going to get it out of the way. Your lefty edge, George Karlaftis, which last year through 8 games, he actually led the league in pressures. But then in his last, I think it was 9 games, I think he did play the full season. Nope, his last 8 games, he did have less pressures than he did the first half of the year. He actually, I think, he had 42 in the second half of the season, which is still good, but he also didn't have those sack numbers that you really want to see from your starting at the end. I know he also goes into coverage sometimes, but 6 sacks is nothing to scoff at. Now we look at Chris Jones, who is, I know Chris Jones, again, this is one that has a lot of discourse through Chiefs fans and NFL fans in general. Is Chris Jones washed? A tad bit, yes. But let's put it in perspective. He's 32, and last year he did boast 7 sacks, and yes, you can see on film that he takes a lot of plays off. I think back to the Jags game where he lost the Chiefs that game when Trevor Lawrence was on the ground and he just kind of jogged. But I still think he's a very serviceable D tackle, and I actually really like him on this team as a leader because we'll get to that. Because actually, no, I'll talk about it right now. He got Peter Woods sitting behind him. Peter Woods is a phenomenal D tackle prospect, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see him. I hope he plays this year. Yeah, but then you're right, D tackle. I'm not very high on Chris Tonga, I think is how you say his name. He's a D tackle, all right, and I don't expect him to necessarily start all 17 games. I do think he will be benched eventually. Again, these are just projected starters. Last year in New England, he did absolutely nothing. He's never really been a good big player. He's only has half a sack in his entire career, which again, I know stats don't mean everything, and stats, especially for D tackles, aren't the biggest factor, but he's a 7th-round pick with half a sack on his career, going into 6th season, where he is on a new team for the 5th time in 6 seasons. So yeah, I do expect him to get benched eventually, and then behind him, just because I think he could get benched, maybe for Peter Woods, but also maybe for Norman Lott, who didn't play a ton last year. And I believe he's on the PUP right now. Let me take a look. He is definitely on the PUP, yes. Now, he's a second-year guy coming out of the second round who only played 5 games last year. Now, if he can stay healthy, maybe he can develop. Again, he's playing next to Chris Jones, which is great. Chris Jones was one of the best D tackles of his generation. So it's good to be able to have him and then 2 young guys sitting behind him. Now, looking at your right D end, Felix and Duque Uzuma, maybe is how you say his name. Yeah, he's definitely a player. He's played 34 games in his career. He did not play at all last year. I think that's very important to note. But he's never really been good. But the guy behind him I actually do kind of like. Actually, I really like R. Mason Thomas. I'll save my talk for him later because when we get into the rookies. I will say right now, I do actually really like that R. Mason Thomas pick. Now, so overall pass rush is pretty decent. It's definitely not the worst in the league. But I do think it will kind of be a weakness. But again, I trust Spags. Now looking at a weak side linebacker, Drew Tranquil. And I know Chiefs fans have been a little upset with Drew Tranquil last year. But I'll say this. He's definitely a serviceable linebacker. He brings in the veteran presence needed because it is a pretty young defense. Not really starting, but there's a lot of guys sitting, waiting that are pretty young. So this is a good leader that you have that is definitely a serviceable linebacker. By no means is he a bad backer. He is decent in coverage. He's really good against the run, stopping the quarterback. I know last year he kind of had a down year, his third year in KC. But yeah, he's definitely good. Now your middle side linebacker is another guy that kind of caught a lot of flack last year from the Chiefs after getting his contract extension. You get Nick Bolton, who again is just a very good linebacker. Again, last year he did kind of have a down year. But I'll say this. The entire Chiefs defense had a down year. You keep hearing me say that. This guy had a down year. This guy had a down year. The entire Chiefs defense under Spags had a down year. And again, I trust Spags to get this defense back into shape. And again, the Chiefs were a really good run defense last year, apart from the Buffalo game. Yikes. But yeah, this is definitely a good linebacking duo. But then your strong linebacker, Cole Christensen, second year out of Army. It's not a second year. I lied. I did not know he's been in the league since 2020, but he is. I'm looking at his stats right now. You can't really find any film on this guy. He's 28. I actually didn't bother to look. Let me be clear on that. But yeah, he's only played 20 games in 5 years, and he's never shown anything. But you know what? I'll be optimistic. He hasn't really got to prove himself. But you also have Cam Arnold behind him, who is in his first season with the Chiefs. And plus, he's only 24. So maybe he'll end up starting. Maybe. Or playing, So, you know what? I think the linebacking core is pretty strong. Obviously, your strong side is a little... Alright, that's not great. But then you also have Nick Bolton, Andrew Tranquil there. So, I mean, it could be worse. It definitely is one of the better linebacking cores in the league, in my opinion. But yeah, so now we get into the real beater of this team, the secondary. Now, this secondary is interesting, and I want to save one guy for last. Now, I'm not going to comment too much on him, but Mansour Lane, all I'll say right now, before we get into the rookie segment, is I actually really like this pick. I thought it was a very good pick. I don't agree with them trading up, because I think he would have been their pick anyways. But yeah, it was a good pick. Now, so we'll save him. Now, your nickelback, you get Kader Kohu, and yeah, that's all I'll say. It's Kader Kohu. He's not going to be a game changer for you. But then your free safety, you get Alohi Gilman. And I like Alohi Gilman. And again, I've talked to some Chiefs fans, only two, and none of them are super, okay, yeah, this guy's going to be the game changer of our team. No. But I've also talked to some Baltimore fans from last season, yeah, okay. He was definitely serviceable last year, and I'm excited to see him with this Spags defense. I hope that he can do good. I'm a big Alohi Gilman guy just because I like his name. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, I think he could definitely be a good free safety for you who can transition to nickelback as you need and depending on the coverages. Now, Kamari Connor. He's going into his 4th season, and he wasn't great. Honestly, his last 3 seasons in the league. Film-wise, he was definitely better than he was statistically, but again, film-wise, he's still not the best safety. But again, he's only in his 4th year. The defense should be better than it was last year. And you know what? He's basically a veteran now. He has Super Bowl experience. I'll say I like him. But then also I want to point out behind him, you also have Jaden Hicks, who has played for KC last year a little bit. He's going into his 3rd season. I'm kind of high on him. I'm not going to lie. I know they kind of transitioned him to nickelback looking at the film. I'm kind of high on him a little bit. Now, the guy I wanted to save is L'Jarius Sneed, obviously coming over after being cut from the Titans, where he did not have a particularly good 2 years. And he didn't play a lot. He only played 13 games there. But honestly, I'll give you guys a bold prediction. I guess I kind of do one per team now. I think he could have a bounce back year. I think I'm looking at it okay, he is a Spags-made guy. He's only succeeded in the Spags defense, and you know what? He's back now. I do think he could definitely maybe not get back to what he was his final 2 years in KC, but I think he could get back to that upper echelon of corners in the league. Now, I don't expect him to be blitzed a lot I think it was his last year maybe in the league and with KC where he had 4 sacks. I don't expect that much, but I do think he will definitely be better than what he was. Now, that's going to wrap up the team, the depth chart. There we go. The depth chart of this team. And overall, I think they're better than last year. They're definitely an older team, especially defensively, but I actually really like the outlook of this team. So, yeah, we're going to go over to offseason now, and we're going to start with who they brought in for free agency, which, spoiler, I kind of like. Okay, now looking at their free agency, I actually like it. First off, you bring back Tyquan Thornton, Travis Kelce, Jameis Winchester, Drew Tranquil, and Jack Coranch, I think is how you say his name. You bring all those guys back, which is good. I like all those moves. I already commented on Drew Tranquil and how a player I think he is. Now looking at their external additions, Kenneth Walker, I already said I like him. He is definitely the best. He's a good weapon for Mahomes. He's the best back Mahomes has had. He's going into a system with a good offensive coordinator. And then Alohi Gilman, I already so commented on him. I'm not super high on him, but I am hoping that he could do good because they really do need that safety help. And, they gave him a 3-year deal, so they have faith in him. Now, Krish Tonga, I think, again, is how you say his name, interior defensive line. They needed help there last year because outside of Chris Jones, statistically, no one was there. And then Kader Kohu and Kyer Elam, they needed some cornerback depth to retool that room. And that's what we're going to talk about right now because they lost Jalen Watson to the Rams, Brian Cook to the Bengals, and they, of course, traded Trent McDuffie. So, they lost a lot of secondary pieces. So, yeah, it's good that they retooled there. And then, of course, you lost Isaiah Pacheco, but that's not really too big of a hit. I mean, yeah, so they lost a few key players, but they also brought in some guys to help them with that. Now, losing your entire secondary does suck, but I think they retooled pretty well. So now we're going to go into coaching and then draft, per usual. For that coaching, I'm just going to spit off the top of my head because this is a good coaching room. I'll say that right now. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, Steven Spagnuolo as your defensive coordinator, and Andy Reid as your head coach. Now, again, I'll say this. I see the discourse that Steven Spagnuolo and Andy Reid get in Chiefs community after this year, but let's be honest, they are good coaches. And you bring back Eric Bieniemy. The last time your offense was good was with Eric Bieniemy. So, I mean, this is one of the best coaching staffs in the entire league, in my opinion. You have a upper echelon head coach. You have who last time he was with you, a great offensive coordinator, and you have one of the best veteran defensive coordinators in the league. Yes, the Chiefs defense struggled last year. Yeah, okay. So what? Steven Spagnuolo has that. He has the career that says, hey, this is a good defensive coordinator. There's no reason that Chiefs fans should look at this coaching room and be like, oh, I hate this. Because I'm jealous of this coaching room. This is one of the better coaching rooms in the league. Like, it's just true. But, yeah, I mean, with this coaching room, I think they'll honestly be a good team no matter what. And, of course, you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, too. So, no matter what, I think they will make this team a good team. So, we're going to go into the rookies because I don't have anything else to say on them. So, we're going to go into the rookies now. Now, this is my favorite draft we've covered so far. This and the Jets are my two favorite that we've covered so far. First pick, you go out and you get Mansour Delane. Boom! What a pick. Yes, I do think they overpaid for him. I don't think they should have traded up because I really do think he should have been there. But 6th overall, you get him. Boom! He has the upside for being a lockdown corner as he was in college with really good pass coverage skills, decent ball tracking abilities. Obviously, that doesn't matter as much as pass covering. But yeah, he showed in college at LSU that he was a good corner. And I'm very excited to see him with this Spags defense. Now, again, we're going to bang out there's really only a few players I want to talk about, but we're going to bang out three more defensive players. Peter Woods, bang. R. Mason Thomas, bang. And Jadon Candry, bang. I don't know if that's how you say that last guy's name. But let's talk about Peter Woods. I love Peter Woods. He is going to be your Chris Jones replacement eventually. Because let's face it, Chris Jones could retire after this year, honestly. And now you get a guy that gets to sit behind him. And yeah, it's just good. Now, R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher, if you don't know, he could find his way starting this year because one side of the D-line doesn't really have an edge that is, cemented himself. After this training camp, it might be announced that he is the starter. It honestly could be. Again, I'm very high on R. Mason Thomas. I think he's a very good edge coming out of Oklahoma. I'm very excited to see him in this Spags defense. Same with Peter Woods. I know I didn't say that, but yes, I'm that high on Steven Spagnuolo. Now, Jadon, the Chiefs have been known to just get steals late in the draft at corner. I think of recently, they get Watson. Of course, Snead was a late-round pick. They are just known for getting these guys late, and I really like him coming out of the 4th round. Now, the only other guy I really want to talk about is Emmett Johnson, because I'm high on Emmett Johnson, and I do think he could really be, a good backup running back to Kenneth Walker. Obviously, I don't think he's starting caliber. He has not proven that or anything, but I am pretty high on him, and I do think he could be a good starting caliber running back. So now we're going to go into what some Chiefs fans have told me they're thinking about this season. Now, this is a segment I kind of want to introduce to every offseason looking forward thing. So I have a friend that's a Chiefs fan, and I'll give you his opinion first. He thinks the Chiefs team this year isn't great, which they're not compared to past years. But he thinks he has them at a high ceiling, because me and him were talking about playoffs yesterday for the Chiefs, and that obviously if they get in the playoffs, they are a dangerous team. But he also gave me his record prediction, and he thinks they will go 8-9. Now, he thinks that mainly because of the roster, but also because, let's be honest, Patrick Mahomes probably won't play out 100%. And he honestly doesn't even want Patrick Mahomes to start the year because he's worried about injury, which I entirely understand. God, my forehead looks huge. So, yeah, but then another guy I talked to, and I talked to him on the great TikTok, so this guy's opinion must be great. But no, this guy was super chill, and he told me he thinks the Chiefs could either go 7-10 for the floor or 11-6 for the ceiling. Now, he said he feels 11-6 is a little high because, again, this roster, that's what the common Chiefs thing is that I've talked to with those two guys, is the roster isn't great, but he did agree that it was better than last year's. But he does think that Patrick Mahomes could will them into playoffs because of how he was playing at the beginning of last season, where he really did look like the most valuable player in football. So, honestly, I kind of have the same opinion about it. I think that the Chiefs, at their best, could be a playoff team, but at their worst, are just out of playoff contention. So now we will go into the schedule so that I can give you my predictions. Off the bat, this is a really difficult schedule, but I will say week 1, we don't know if Bo Nix will start, and it is looking like Patrick Mahomes will start. So it could go either way for that one, depending on really if Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes are healthy and start that week, which is Monday Night Football. Who knows? It could be Justin Fields versus Jared Stidham week 1. That's rough. But then your next few games are kind of hit and miss. So you have the Raiders, I lied. You have the Colts, Miami, and then the Raiders. Now, I think they win 2 of those games. I think they do drop to the Colts, but Miami and Raiders, I know. The Raiders is an away game, and I do think the Raiders will be better than they were last year, but it's still the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you get into a very difficult part of your schedule where you play, this is coming out of your bye, by the way, Chargers, Seahawks, and, of course, Broncos. Now, Broncos is away, and Bo Nix probably will be healthy by then. Chargers is home, and Seahawks is away. I could see them honestly dropping all 3 of those games, but they could sneak one out. I do not see them beating the Seahawks in any way, though. Then again, you get a little bit of a break. You get Jets, Falcons, and Cardinals. Now, I'm pretty high on the Falcons this year, but the Chiefs definitely could beat them. And again, the Cardinals and Jets are just kind of free, especially because they're at home. And then another difficult part of your schedule, which is a very hard part. I'm just going to go through all the remaining games. Buffalo, Rams, Bengals, Patriots, 49ers, Chargers, and Raiders. Now, that is a very rough 7-game stretch, but I do think they could go 3-4 or 4-3. Now, I'll get you into record predictions. Give me half a second. I think the ceiling for this team is 10-7. And I think the floor for this team is 7-10, 8-9-ish. It's hard because this is a pretty rough and easy schedule at the same time. It's kind of in the middle. But my prediction is they will go 9-8. If they make the playoffs, we'll see later. But yeah, that's my prediction. Spread some love today. I love you all.